Shalom, Zion. We have a lot to cover and prove in this video. Let's begin, shall we? Ezekiel chapter 16 in the Septuagint. Quote, "Moreover, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, testify to Jerusalem of her iniquities, and thou shalt say, Thus saith the Most High to Jerusalem, Thy root and thy birth are of the land of Canaan. Thy father was an Amorite, and thy mother a Hittite. And as for thy birth, in the day wherein thou was born, thou didst not bind thy breast, and thou wast not washed in water. Neither was thou salted with salt, neither was thou swaddled in swaddling bands. Nor did mine eye pity thee, to do for thee one of all these things, to fill it all for thee. But thou wast cast out on the face of the field, because of the deformity of thy person, in the day wherein thou was born." Stop. This is a time frame before the Most High placed his name upon Jerusalem. This is when Jerusalem was called Salem in the scriptures. Did anyone notice that the Most High called Jerusalem a woman and said that she had breasts and was naked? But wait a minute, I have two beautiful daughters and neither one were born with breasts. How can this be? These are all characteristics of a flesh and blood grown-ass woman, but it's being attributed to a city. Another feather in the cap for me, this proves my Ezekiel 32 understanding is correct. Most, but not all, the names of the cities in the Tanakh has a spirit over them. That's why the city called Ashur will be thrown into the pit with all his hosts round about his tomb. Yet another reason why I know the beginning of this chapter is before Yah chose to place his name there is because her root and her birth was in the land of Canaan. Her father was an Amorite and her mother a Hittite. Two Hamitic nations, right? Well before Israel took the land. Probably when it was still called Salem, right? But hey, wasn't Melchizedek the high priest and king of Salem? The references to Melchizedek was only because he was high priest and king at the same time. How can Melchizedek be high priest and king of our God? What nation did the Most High choose to make his name great? It was Israel, right? Starting with Granddad Abraham, right? Melchizedek's time on earth was well before Uncle Moses and our family exodus from Mizraim. But based on the story itself, it seems as though Melchizedek is older than Granddad Abram. Yah said, of all the families of the earth, only Israel has he known. So did Yah choose another family before Abraham, or was Melchizedek from the line of Granddad Abraham? Melchizedek was the king and high priest of a foreign nation. If he was a high priest and king of the Most High, why did Granddad say this to Melchizedek and to the king of Sodom? Genesis 14:20-23. Quote, "And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I will stretch out my hand to the Lord, the Most High God, who made the heaven and the earth, that I will not take from thee of all thy goods, from a string to a shoe lacket, lest thou shalt say, I have made Abram rich." End quote. Granddad dissed Melchizedek's blessing, and Granddad invoked the name of Yah before he said the Most High God, then told him he wasn't going to take a damn thing from him, except for what the young men had already eaten. Then after these things happened in the next chapter, Granddad had a vision from Yah himself, saying, "Fear not, Abram, for I am thy shield, and thy reward shall be very great." Why would the Most High tell Granddad not to be afraid of his own high priest and king at the same time? Why is Melchizedek not mentioned in 1 Chronicles if he is king and high priest of the Almighty Yah? Melchizedek was a king and high priest of a foreign nation and was trying to protect his skins. At the beginning of this chapter, there was a war between the 4 kings and the 5 kings. As a matter of fact, the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah were with the king of Salem, Melchizedek himself, and only 5 chapters later on in Genesis was Sodom and Gomorrah turned into salt. We must study Zion. The Most High said, those who diligently seek his face, we're going to find him. And you have to find the Most High within his own words in the Tanakh and the Torah. Verse 6, quote, "And I passed by to thee, and saw thee polluted in thy blood. And I said to thee, let there be life out of thy blood, increase. I have made thee as the springing grass of the field, so that thou didst increase and grow, and didst enter into great cities. Thy breasts were set, and thy hair grew, whereas thou was naked and bare. And I passed by thee and saw thee, And behold, it was thy time, and a time of resting. And I spread my wings over thee, and covered thy shame, and swore to thee, and entered into covenant with thee, saith the Lord. And thou becamest mine, and I washed thee in water, and washed thy blood from thee, and anointed thee with oil, and I clothed thee with embroidered garments, and clothed thee beneath with purple, and girded thee with fine linen, and clothed thee with silk, and decked thee also with ornaments, and put bracelets on thy hands, and a necklace on thy neck. And I put a pendant on thy nostrils, and rings in thine ears, and a crown of glory on thy head. So thou was adorned with gold and silver, and thy raiment was of fine linen and silk and variegated work. And thou didst eat fine flour and oil and honey, and didst become extremely beautiful. Stop. I told you that this section of this chapter was before and after the Most High chose to place his name there. This all may have even happened before the Canaanites took the land. However, Jerusalem is a city, right? Then how is she eating and being decked out from head to toe by the Most High? Remember, Yah said the land was a land of milk and honey, meaning the fatness of the earth was in abundance upon this land. Why is Yah decking out a city like this? For we all thought that Jerusalem was just a city. Although the Most High did all this for her, as you will soon hear, her loyalty was for all. And for those who believe this happened after we entered into the land, Joshua chapter 10 disproves that. The land was already called Jerusalem before we took the land. Plus, even before the military campaign to take the land, the spies said this about the land in Numbers 13:28-29. Quote, and they reported to him and said, we came into the land into which thou sentest us, a land flowing with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. Only the nation that dwells upon it is bold, and they are very great and strong walled towns. And we saw there the children of Anak. Example. This is the report of the land that the spies had from Uncle Moses, a land flowing with milk and honey, the fatness and sweetness of the earth. Which land fits this description today? Surely not the Middle East. Better question, what country today is damn near everybody breaking their necks to enter into? America, right? Furthermore, I have another question. The Most High said he spread his wings over her. Does the Most High have wings like an angel? Verse 17, quote, and thy name went forth among the nations for thy beauty, because it was perfected with elegance. And in the comeliness which I put upon thee, saith the Lord, thou didst trust in thy beauty, and didst go a-whoring because of thy renown, and didst pour out thy fornication on every passerby. And thou didst take of thy garments, and madest to thyself idols of needlework, and didst go a-whoring after them. Therefore thou shalt never come in, neither shall the like take place. And thou tookest thy fair ornaments of my gold and of my silver, and of what I gave thee, and thou madest to thyself male images, and thou didst commit whoredom with them. And thou didst take thy variegated apparel, and didst clothe them, and thou didst set them before in mine oil and mine incense, and thou tookest my bread which I gave thee. Yea, I fed thee with fine flour, and oil, and honey, and thou didst set them before them for a sweet smelling savor. Yea, it was so, saith the Lord. And thou tookest thy sons and thy daughters whom thou borest, and didst sacrifice these to them to be destroyed. And thou didst go a-whoring as if it were a little. And thou didst slay thy children, and gavest them up an offering to them for an expiation. This is beyond all thy fornication, and thou didst not remember thine infancy when thou wast naked and bare, and didst live, though defiled in thy blood. Stop. I'm not sure if this is saying that Jerusalem had children, but something said in this chapter towards the end sure does make it seem as though she did or does have children. However, did not this very same thing happen while we were upon the land, and even the Canaanites before us? The reason why I said Jerusalem might have her own children, other than the Israelites or even the Canaanites before us, is because near the very end of this chapter, it tells us that Gomorrah was the daughter of Sodom along with other cities/entities. Can both be possible at the same time? Meaning, Could Jerusalem have had her own children, and they had cities named after them, all the while committing these acts in the metaphysical and the Israelites in the physical? Just a question, calm down. She made male images to commit whoredoms with, idolatry, and wickedness with, and she gave them all that the Most High gave her. This sounds similar to the events of 2 Kings chapter 17, where we hired ourselves out to work wickedness along with the sins of Jeroboam. Question: y'all know that the sins of Jeroboam was getting Israel, the 10 tribes, to start worshiping 2 golden calves after the Most High separated the kingdoms? But if we weren't supposed to worship anything other than the Most High, even if you know the Most High is the Most High, just like Jeroboam did, Jeroboam was still slaughtered because he got Israel to lead them astray by having them worship 2 golden calves. So even though you may know the Most High is above that damn idol, and you're still worshiping that idol, you are still committing the sins of Jeroboam. Point blank, period. Verse 23, quote, "And it came to pass after all thy wickedness, saith the Lord, that thou didst build thyself a house of fornication, and didst make thyself a public place in every street. And on the head of every way thou didst set up thy fornications, and didst defile thy beauty, and didst open thy feet to every passerby. And thou didst multiply thy fornication, and thou didst go a-whoring after the children of Mizraim, thy neighbors, great of flesh, and didst go a-whoring even to provoke me to anger. And if I stretch out my hand against thee, then will I abolish my statutes and deliver thee up to all the wills of them that hate thee, even to the daughters of the Philistines, that turn thee aside from the way wherein thou sinned. And thou didst go a-whoring to the daughters of Ashur, and not even thus was thou satisfied. Yea, thou didst go a-whoring, and was not satisfied. And thou didst multiply thy covenants with the land of the Chaldeans, and not even with these was thou satisfied. Why should I make a covenant with thy daughter, saith the Lord? While thou didst all these things, the works of a harlot, and thou hast gone a-whoring in a 3-fold degree with thy daughters." Stop. Am I tripping, or did the Most High just say Jerusalem was committing fornication with men and women? The scriptures even said her and her daughters have gone a-whoring. The daughters of the Philistines said that she was doing too much. So Jerusalem went a-whoring to the daughters of Ashur. See, ladies and gentlemen, a little woman-on-woman action is an abomination also. What do y'all think when the Most High said opening her feet to every passerby, to multiply thy fornication? What do y'all think that means? Also, what do you think the Most High meant by saying the children of Mizraim are greater flesh? To me, since this is dealing with sex, and fornication, I have no other conclusion other than to say it is the size of their private parts. Nothing new under the sun. Women today gush over big penises just like they did in antiquity. And if you still don't believe me and just think I'm making stuff up, look at Uncle Ezekiel chapter 23 and 20. What do you think the flesh of asses and members like the members of horses means? The KJV says issue, just like in the Torah, if a man's seed of copulation leaves his issue. As above, so below, the daughters of the Philistines hated Jerusalem. We have Ashur and the Chaldeans. The Chaldeans are the magic people, and we have them committing whoredoms with Jerusalem and making covenants with Jerusalem and with foreign nations, and the Most High said that she still was not satisfied. The more understanding I get of the scriptures, the more I see how merciful Yah truly is. Let us continue, shall we? Verse 31, quote, "Thou hast built an house of harlotry in every top of a way. Thou hast set up thine high place in every street, and thou didst become a harlot, gathering hires. An adulteress resembles thee, taking rewards of her husband. She has given rewards to all that went a-whoring after her, and thou hast given rewards to all thy lovers. Yea, thou didst load them with rewards, and they came to thee from every side for thy fornication. And there has happened in thee perverseness, and thy fornication beyond other women. and they have committed fornication with thee, and that thou gavest hires over and above, and hires were not given to thee, and thus perverseness happened in thee. Stop. Told you, she gave all that the Most High gave her to those that she committed whoredoms with. The Most High said, an adulteress resembles her, taking rewards of her husband. She also had perverseness within her to have others do the same as she has done herself, giving away her clientele, and none wanted her anymore. I guess the old saying is true, ain't no blank like new blank. And y'all know exactly what I'm talking about, stop playing. Or could she have been head mistress? This is wickedness in a perverse spirit. The Most High will deal with you for your own sins, but when you encourage others to do things that are against the law, the Most High has no forgiveness for that. Example, leading Israel astray, causing them to worship other gods, or even to even profane the name of the Most High himself. Verse 35, quote, therefore, harlot, hear the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord, because thou hast poured forth thy money, therefore thy same shall be discovered in thy harlotry with thy lovers. And with regard to all the imaginations of thine iniquities, and for the blood of thy children which thou hast given to them, therefore, behold, I will gather all thy lovers with whom thou hast consorted, and all whom thou hast loved, with all whom thou didst hate, and I will gather them against thee round about, and I will expose thy wickedness to them, and they shall see all thy shame. And I will be avenged on thee with the vengeance of an adulteress, and I will bring upon thee blood of fury and jealousy, and I will deliver thee into their hands, and they shall break down thy house of harlotry, and destroy thine high places, and they shall strip thee of thy garments, and they shall take thy proud ornaments, and leave thee naked and bare, and they shall bring multitudes upon thee, and they shall stone thee with stones, and pierce thee with swords, and they shall burn thine houses with fire, and shall execute vengeance on thee in the sight of many women. And I will turn thee back from harlotry, and I will no more give thee rewards. So I will slacken my fury against thee, and my jealousy shall be removed from thee. And I will rest, and be no more careful for thee, because thou didst not remember thine infancy, and thou didst grieve me in all these things. Therefore, behold, I have recompensed thy ways upon thy head, saith the Lord, for thou hast wrought ungodliness above all thine other iniquities. Stop. First comes pride, then the fall. Israel, Yah will use our own wickedness against us to destroy us. The very same lovers were the very same destroyers, which were ultimately sent by Yah himself. Notice how it switches from her personally to us, the inhabitants. To say, to stone her with stones and pierce her with swords, and watch her houses being burnt and executing vengeance on her in the sight of many women. After all this, Yah will not care for her anymore, and her harlotry is finally taken away. Could this be referring to Israel being barren and desolate of men and women in the end times? All these things happen because of ungodliness and the grief that she put upon the Most High. Zion, we will have our own ways recompensed on our own heads. Repent and do right by Yah. It is the only way to salvation. The next few verses are the reason for the title of this video. Verse 44, quote, these are all the things they have spoken against thee in a proverb, saying, as is the mother, so is thy mother's daughter. Thou art she that has rejected her husband and her children, and the sisters of thy sisters have rejected their husbands and their children. Your mother was a Hittite, and your father an Amorite. Your elder sister who dwells on thy left hand is Samaria, she and her daughters, and thy younger sister who dwells on thy right hand is Sodom and her daughters. Yet notwithstanding, thou hast not walked in their ways, neither hast thou done according to their iniquities within a little, but thou hast exceeded them in all thy ways. Stop. I told you the scriptures attest that Jerusalem, Samaria, and Sodom are sisters. Yes, they are spirits over their respected lands, just like Ezekiel 32 and the spirits and hosts that are placed into the pit. This title is beyond accurate. Fellas, as the mother is, so is the daughter. What is what shall be, for there is no new thing under the sun. Yah said, that she has exceeded Samaria and her daughters, and Sodom and her daughters in wickedness. We all know what happened to Sodom and her daughters. Let's continue to see if it is the reason that you believe or the reason that is actually written within the scriptures about the main reason why Sodom and her bands, her daughters, were destroyed. Verse 48, quote, "As I live, saith the Most High, this Sodom and her daughters have not done as thou and thy daughters have done. Moreover, this was the sin of thy sister Sodom, pride. She and her daughters lived in pleasure, in fullness of bread, and in abundance. This belonged to her and her daughters, and they held not the hand of the poor and needy, and they boasted and wrought iniquity before me. So I cut them off as I saw fit. Also, Samaria has not sinned according to half of thy sins, but thou hast multiplied thine iniquities beyond them, and thou hast justified thy sisters in all thine iniquities which thou hast committed. Thou therefore bear thy punishment, for that thou hast corrupted thy sisters by thy sins which thou hast committed beyond them, and thou hast made them appear more righteous than thyself. Thou therefore be ashamed and bear thy dishonor, and that thou hast justified thy sisters." Stop. According to Genesis chapter 10 and 19, quote, "And the boundaries of the Canaanites were from Zidon till one comes to Gerara and Gaza, till one comes to Sodom and Gomorrah, and to Adama and to Seboim, and as far as Gaza. These are the daughters of Sodom." Also, Deuteronomy 29 and 23 doubles down on this fact. Sodom and her daughters were not destroyed because of having hot sex all the time. It was because they had an abundance of bread and didn't help the poor nor the needy. But they boasted, "I have bread and you don't." Kind of like today with the "get your weight up, broke ass nigga," or something along those lines. The Most High hates pride. We were all poor and needy at some point in our lives. Samaria didn't even do half the wickedness that Jerusalem did. And because all that Jerusalem has done, she made Sodom and Samaria look more righteous compared to herself. Sodom was destroyed and turned into salt, but her sins weren't even half as bad as Jerusalem's. Although Jerusalem is said to be desolate, which means void of inhabitants, both of man and beast, the Most High did say he was going to get us off the land and out of his sight, correct? A far cry from modern Israel today, or modern Jerusalem today. That place is packed with people, war, homosexual parades, automatic guns, targeting little kids, among many other offenses. As opposite to this land, which matches the prophecies about Jerusalem, states that she will be barren and without inhabitants before the Most High brings us into the land. But modern day Israel is packed to the brim with people.
The Israeli government is flying out like celebrities for free out there to do a tour for free, and it's on the house. They fly you first class, the whole thing. And I go, "It's free?" They go, "Yeah, it's not free." Because when you land there, they go, "You have to every day tweet positive things about Israel."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I just felt so uneasy about it. I don't know much about it. I just know that they're in conflict. But I did what they said. It was just basically, Palestinians, Israel's a beautiful country.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's true.
It is true, but then it's like I had to tag the government in it or whatever.
Oh, that's crazy. The Israeli government?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. That's weird as shit.
Yeah, and it was just like every day it was just nonstop.
You were cucking for the Israeli government.
Yeah, but I wish I hadn't gone really.
I wish I could say I was shocked to find out that Israel's techno-dystopia is testing out remote-controlled guns with AI tracking systems on civilians in the West Bank. They've just installed one in Haida refugee camp pointing directly at the entrance to the Palestinian neighborhood. The same spot where an Israeli sniper shot dead a 13-year-old boy and regularly fires at kids. I guess Israel's massive wall, armored military jeeps, snipers, foot soldiers, and 6 watchtowers surrounding the area just wasn't enough defense against the scary Palestinian kids with rocks.
Verse 53, quote, And I will turn thy captivity, even the captivity of Sodom and her daughters. And I will turn the captivity of Samaria and her daughters. And I will turn thy captivity in the midst of them, that thou mayest bear thy punishment and be dishonored for all that thou hast done in provoking me to anger. And thy sister Sodom and her daughters shall be restored as they were at the beginning. And Samaria and her daughters shall be restored as that they were at the beginning. And thou and thy daughters shall be restored as ye were at the beginning. And surely thy sister Sodom was not mentioned by thy mouth in the days of thy pride, before thy wickedness was discovered. Even now thou art the reproach of the daughters of Syria, and of all them that are round about her, even the daughters of the Philistines that compass thee round about. As for thine ungodliness and thine iniquities, thou hast borne them, saith the Lord. Stop. If Sodom, Samaria, and Jerusalem are all in captivity, where are they today? All three will be restored as if they were at the beginning. Then, who are the people in that land today? Or is that land the true land of our fathers? Remember, Samaria will be on the left of Jerusalem, and Sodom will be on the right. If we make it to the kingdom, keep this little secret in mind. Furthermore, when Jerusalem was doing all her wickedness, the Most High said she didn't even think about her sister Sodom until her sins were uncovered to the whole world. Even the daughters of the Syrians, Philistines, amongst others, found the greatest idol of all time, went to church, and became born-again virgins. As for Jerusalem and her sins and her iniquities, she bragged about them. Doesn't that sound like someone every black man knows today? Let's finish this out. Verse 59, quote, "Thus saith the Lord, I will even do to thee as thou hast done, as thou hast dealt shamefully in these things to transgress my covenant, and I will remember my covenant made with thee in the days of thine infancy, and I will establish to thee an everlasting covenant. Then thou shalt remember thy ways, and shalt be utterly dishonored when thou receivest thine elder sisters with thy younger ones. And I will give them to thee for building up, but not by thy covenant. And I will establish my covenant with thee, and thou shalt know that I am Yah. That thou mayest remember and be ashamed, and mayest be no more able to open thy mouth for thy shame, when I am reconciled to thee for all that thou hast done, saith Yah." Example. I believe the Most High said this to Israel at some point or another. If you know it, drop it in the comment section, please. But did anyone notice that Jerusalem will be restored in the end? So if Jerusalem will be restored, she must be desolate as at this day, right? Micah 3:12. I know that this chapter is mainly talking about the metaphysical entity Jerusalem, with a couple of sprinkles of the inhabitants thrown in just to keep you thinking. Also, the Most High will reinforce his covenant with her, and Sodom and Samaria will help her build her up again, but they won't be built up by her covenant. I don't know what all of this means, but I clearly understand the story and who it is talking about, and too. Hopefully you did also. Until next time, Zion, cry out to your Elohim, the Most High of Zion, and hallelujah. All praises to the Most High only, no idols included.